Yeah, no kidding. God, I love that song. I honestly can't believe I can play it. Freaking Jimmy Page. I can't garage sell too much, but I got a few I'm spotted. There's one that was like a crafters, and they said something like old 50s and 60s denim. I'm like, ooh. But they had a sale yesterday, so they may have sold a lot of that. I agree. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for joining the live yesterday, Tim. If you're still in here, I appreciate it. It was fun to do those. I almost didn't realize how many good hats I had. And it was nice to know that there was some I didn't realize how good they were. And it's just good to see. I love seeing Chris's reaction. He's just, that makes it just as much fun as anything. And then, of course, he only wanted the $2 hat that I got. But it was almost personal to him because he has that poster, literally has that poster on his wall, I think is what he said. And he knew the artist. So that's pretty cool. And it was a neat hat. Wakeboard World Championships. It was neat. What up, Sam? How you doing? I should share this out. I just come on here because I'm bored. Boom. I'm gonna be playing guitar anyway, right? Gotta practice. Drinking coffee. What you doing today, Sam? You head out to garage sales on Saturdays? I've got so good at sourcing, I barely ever go to Goodwill anymore. It's just the prices are double than in garage sales. I can get better pinpointed, like really good reseller stuff on YouTube auctions. Pay up a little bit for them, but I've done really well with that. Bell tones like a G. Yeah, I love those harmonics. Those are fun. Crocker's Lockers, he plays electric, and that's all he plays. He's like, I didn't know you can do harmonics on acoustic. Heck yeah. Do it on the mandolin, you know? Yeah, I got to mow a couple yards this morning, but I can go mow and go to garage sales. Some of my best garage sales were all accidents that were on my way. I went to 2 garage sales yesterday on my mower because I have to go down the road a little bit. There's nowhere to park, so I take my mower and my blower, and I put my blower on my backpack, and I put my weed eater here, and I drive. And I showed up and parked in the parking lot. They just look at me like, what in the world? I'm like, you mind if I park here and hit both these garage sales? They're like, okay. Found like a Super Mario skull. Where is it? I got him right here. Well, maybe I don't. I got like this Chicago Bulls vintage hat for 75 cents. It had like those little white things that ball up, but I know I can take those off. And the Super Mario skull cap that has like Super Mario Brothers on here, a bunch of different like it's cool. And then a belt buckle that has like some kind of certificate on the back. It says, where did I leave that? Hopefully my dog didn't eat it all. I have too much crap. And it had a belt buckle and had like a certificate authentication on the back, and it was really super old. It was a belt buckle. It was like a key. It was a big brass thing for $2. She goes, yeah, it was my daddy's. So I just know it was old, right? And she was like 60. She was like 75. Then went across the street and I got she had a big box of DVDs for $1 a piece. I have so many DVDs, and if I can buy them for 50 cents, I usually buy them because I can sell them for $2 all day long in my flea market booth. It's the only thing that's been selling this last month. I don't know. Flea market booth was doing great the first month. We reopened, and then this last month, I don't know what's going on. But she had a 2.5 Men first complete season. It was in the $1 bin, so I grabbed it because it's 4 discs. And they were great. And what else they have? It was just one of those weird garage sales where everything was so cheap, and then they had this kick-ass Jordans from way back in the day, like the original Jordans, the ones I remember looking at my buddy and being like, one of the times I'm jealous of my life when he had the new Jordans and he had a Nintendo with all the stuff. I didn't have none of that stuff. And I was like, ooh, and I didn't see a price. I'm like, how much you asking on those Jordans? And he's like, $100. $100. He goes, yeah, they're my son's. That's what he wanted. That's the price. I go, yeah. 20 was going to be, I was, anyway. He goes, yeah, he collects and he buys them all the time. And he goes, well, it's my money. I should just sell them for whatever I want and take the money. I'm like, yeah, you should. Hey, Harry, how's it going, brother? Good to see you. Farm work, yeah. I do farm work every day. Scrap metal riding around? No, I like to watch Taco Stacks though. That was one of my first ones I started watching. So let's go yard. Yeah. Yeah, I probably should. It's just 8 o'clock. It's almost 8 here, so they don't. Most people anymore. I buy stuff that people don't, even resellers, skip over. I'll still ask if they have video games and things like that, but there's a lot of people that just like me that only sell video games, and so they just go to every garage sale. I've seen them. Hey, do you have video games or consoles? Okay, and then just walk away. So I don't even really rush to get those. Seems like everybody gets those first, but I find them a lot of times, and people just didn't know they're worth much. But then there's some people, like I went there yesterday and they had 3 Xbox games. They're all $3. I'm like, nah. They were just Xbox 360 games or anything special. Let's get it. What's up, Kent? Hey, Lone Star Picker. Thanks for joining the live the other day and the hat live. You kept saying get them listed. I'm like, oh yeah. It's just that's a lot of the fun of see what they go for. To me, I do everything by it now, but I was wondering. I forgot. I'm mad at myself for not asking Chris, which I'll just text him, but not asking if he does any auctions on some of those. Some of those hats that could be, you can get 50 to 100. If you put them in auction, you might get more. But when it came to baseball cards, that never really happened. I hated auctions. You'd only get 80%. If you had a good card, you might get about 100%. But if you just set on it, you do better. I forgot to ask him that though. Oh, nice. God, I love Maryland. It's beautiful there. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why everybody kind of liked him. It's just easy to listen to, honestly. It's like I watched Crazy Lamp Lady for a while because I wanted to learn a little bit about glassware and stuff. And I realized real quick, I'm like, oh, she has so many followers that she had a warped sense of what she can get for everything because people were going on her store and buying her auctions and bidding stuff up, that she was getting a market that I could never get. And I was like, I stopped watching. I realized I'd never get that much for it. Every time she sold something, it was to a viewer. So I stopped watching her because I realized she gotten too big almost. And nothing really her fault. I mean, I did the same thing. If you can get more money, yeah. Nice. Get it, Harry. Yard sale of a time. I forget the song. usually don't forget that song. Whew, I played it so many times. Ugh. Choked. Nothing, you turn again. Yeah. I'll never forget that day that Tim pulled over like free stuff and it was all that killer. I got my black light ready to go for today. Baby is up. Yeah. Congrats again on that. Some Dave Mathews Band? Absolutely. Haven't played this in a while. Most fans don't really like that. Yeah, I think that was the Dave Matthews song where the video was so good that it made the song better. Like if you still watch that video, it was made just awesome the way they did it. Down to Stefan Lassard playing the big bass in the swamp. He's laying down in the swamp with a suit on. Boom, boom. It's just weird but cool, very artsy, but it was like perfect at the time when there was a lot. It was just, yeah, I like that. And when it came to the song, yeah. But it's just one of those where that video really made it. Yeah, she is sexy. That's what definitely helps. I like her. I like Harry. You got to watch her husband's channel. I watch him more. He's got a metal detecting, and he goes to like old buildings where he knows was an old dwelling. He just goes around the wall and he finds just all kinds of cool stuff. I like that. Dave Matthews passed. Now she played before church. The Cure was next. Yeah, I like Gray Street. Well, that's a hard one. I forget. It's a tough one. He always makes fun of. He makes Tommy likes him, so he makes him. Yeah, here's the number 41 chord, and what's crazy is he's muting two different chords as well, two different strings, not just four frets. At least he leaves it in the same frame for muting two, and this is just C. But yeah, it's crazy. And then is it? Yeah. Have a good one, man. Appreciate you joining. he does sing about how in love he was, and he had a lot of whiny songs. I guess it says a lot about me, huh? I liked him the most when I was a kid. I still like it. I just appreciate him more now. Trying to play his music, it's ridiculous. Is that better? Is that less gay? I'll list some Lone Star. I was gonna do it last night, but I had a friend call me and talk for like 2 hours. Hour, I don't even know. Yeah, Dave wasn't. I studied a lot about Dave. Dave did smoke, but he didn't. He liked scotch. he It was Boyd that was always doing it, and he would just every once in a while be like, "Yeah, sure," you know. I was at one concert in Arkansas. I was in the second row, and at the end, he actually did. They did a intermission, which they didn't do that a lot, but back then, for some reason, they did intermission, and people just threw up a bunch of joints, like 6 or 7 of them. He's like, went over, man, picked up like 3 of them. He's like, yeah, thanks, and then walked into the intermission. They took forever too. They took like 30 minutes. And we were like, good Lord. It may not have been the intermission. It may have been when they come back and did the encore. Anyway, but like when I studied him, it wasn't as much as everybody else in the band, but he still did. He talked about it more than he did anything. Every time he has a show, he's like, it smells good in here. I'd like to nuzzle up next to you. He's got a great talking voice, better than his singing voice. He doesn't have the best singing voice, but he sings with passion. Yes, you can get away with it, like Bruce Springsteen. Terrible voice, but he doesn't think so, and he sings like he doesn't. And after a while, you're like, you just feel. I don't know. Oh, Rick Beto. No. Write that down. I'm assuming he's a guitarist, singer. Check it out. I like I like good channels. What other channels do you watch? Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Because I like, honestly, I don't watch TV or movies anymore, but I used to be a huge movie guy, and I still love like music and movies. The people that mix it well. Like I listened to a podcast Joe Rogan did Oliver Stone the other day. It was awesome. Him talking about his movie Scarface and writing Scarface, producing uh, or directing. I don't know, directing. I don't know what it is. Producer, isn't it? And of Platoon, and him talking about that, and just the reason I always liked his movies was because there was like music. It was so poignant, but it didn't overtake the movie either, and it was just like he always had perfect music, and I think that makes a big freaking difference. And I didn't know Oliver Stone's his story. I didn't know he was a Vietnam vet and all these different things. And it was a great podcast. I used to watch. Used to listen to every Joe Rogan podcast and stuff, but now I just kind of pick and choose the good ones because he talks about the same thing all the time, and it gets kind of annoying. But I probably would too if you were talking for 2.5 hours every day. You probably hit the same subjects all the time. But the Oliver Stone is, yeah, he was it was a very good one. Some of those guys when they get on there, they're so weird, and he's actually he was good to talk to, easy to talk to. It's like I always think about Caddyshack, um, the Kenny Loggins. All right, it kind of made the movie take off back then because it was like no one knew about it, and then you threw in that song, they go for dancing, people kind of watched it. Well, they wanted Pink Floyd to do the album. They asked Pink Floyd to do it, but it was back when Pink Floyd was like their wings were broken and they were trying to do something. They didn't want the first thing they did to be some no name. It was Harold Ramis's first thing, and so no one was known of other than you know uh, Chevy Chase and Bill Murray was only supposed to do like he wasn't even supposed to do much. He was supposed to come in for like a 2 day shoot. I think it may have been all 2 days that he did all that stuff. And he just kept doing stuff. They just kept going, well, just let him go. And because it's supposed to be about that kid. But anyway, Pink Floyd was supposed to do the album. They turned it down. They said that they didn't want to put their name, the first one, on something no one ever heard of these guys. And they kicked themselves for missing the boat on that one because Kenny Loggins, we wouldn't have had Top Gun most likely and what Footloose if they wouldn't have brought Kenny Loggins on for that first one and made it a cult classic real quick. And yeah, it's just kind of weird. And then Pink Floyd decided they didn't want to miss the boat, so the next one they took, and the next one they got offered, and I can't remember what it was. It was something so bad that they just made a bad choice because they thought it was going to do good, and it was one of their last nails in the coffin for Pink Floyd back then. I think that's when they broke it off with David Gilmour and what's his face got. where they couldn't understand each other. What's his name? Gilmore and why am I not? I used to be a big Pink Floyd fan, but man, so dreary and trippy, and it's just. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't know. It was good in my 20s when I was that way. Robert Plant. Good Lord. No, it's not Robert Plant. Gosh. Zeppelin, dummy. Why can I not think of it right now? Someone right, yeah. Roger Waters, thank God. Robert Plant are. Good Lord. The Zeppelin, I mean, the Pink Floyd, 1975. What's it called? Live at Pompeii. If you ever watched that, that is awesome because it shows their last album they're playing in an amphitheater in Greece with all their equipment out. It is awesome, and I've got a copy of it still. And Live at Pompeii, and it starts showing them working on the Dark Side of the Moon album, and it shows Roger Waters messing with the keyboards, and it's right when the keyboards kind of stuff really got good with the synthesizers and stuff, and you can see him creating the time one, and it was so cool to watch him create this and make it. And Live at Pompeii, look that one up on Amazon or something. If you ever see that, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, it's the best Pink Floyd. Yeah, because they play echoes in this Greek amphitheater that's just old. It's just awesome. And then it gets like shows them eating in a cafe, so you see them talking amongst themselves, which is unlike usually you just see them performing. Even still this day, and it was cool to see them just chit chatting with each other, talking British. Like their accents were so thick, it was crazy. But yeah, I still love Pink Floyd. I just don't listen to it like I used to listen to it a lot. But if I listen to it too much, it's like, well, it's like Alice in Chains. I love it, but after a while, you're like, it's kind of like Chris Cornell. You realize that later on, you're like, man, most of the songs he sang were pretty sad, and you realize he was sad. That's why I like Macklemore. He's just fun and that's like I was talking to my best buddy yesterday about rap and how rap doesn't get a lot of that. People don't look at it as like talent, but man, I've listened to Macklemore Thrift Shop 1,000 times. I still can't do it like that. I try. It's just when you try to actually do the lyricists like them, yeah, you realize how good they are. I mean, it's amazing. It's freaking amazing. Anyway, yeah, Yeah, Rush, Floyd, Zeppelin. I mean, shh, baby. Um, yeah, and it's mainly because the guitarists drove the bands, and then everybody else was at the top of the game. Zeppelin, I don't think you can beat Zeppelin because even the Beatles, they were awesome, but they weren't like supreme, uh, um, so talented or anything. But the Zeppelin, each one of them was like the epitome of their genre of all the bands, and it was just something. Cora, shh. Hey, babe, hey. They were just. I don't think you ever see anything like Zeppelin again. Because Jimmy Page, John Bonham, John Paul Jones, and then Robert Plant. Who can sing like that? I mean, I love the Beatles, and they were the best band combined to make the thing that they are. That was pretty stupid. But and Pink Floyd, they were pretty awesome too. But yeah, and Rush, I love studying Neil Peart way back in the day. I remember a couple of his stories that I remember. Maybe maybe I'm it's been a while. So, but if I remember right, after he graduated from, I think it was Juilliard. It was somewhere in Britain. I remember, if I remember right, he decided that he'd buy a 10-speed. He went to Africa and he just went from tribe to tribe and learned from the best drum master from each place. He just traveled and tried to learn as much as he could because he knew the technique now, the technical aspect of it, but he needed style. And so he went and did that. And I was like, yeah, no wonder, and which is why Dave Mathews is way different too, is because he was in South Africa and he liked to listen to the native music. And another thing too was after they start touring, Neil Peart still had a drum set. It was on the bottom of his pool, and he had it set up so he would create resistance so that he could stay good and get better. Even though he'd stopped making albums, even though he'd stopped touring, he still was trying to get better. It's just that's why that's why those guys and those bands were so good back then. They wanted to be the best, and they put everything into it. They didn't just part-time it. They were freaking all in. And that's what I've learned about me. When I mowed for like a year, I still bartended and mowed, and then it just became too much, and I realized I had to go all in on the mowing, or else I was never going to quit bartending, because bartending was just too fun. It was easy, it's great cash on hand right there. Leave the that night and have that money. But I was never going to expand my mowing if I didn't. So, and when I did, that's when I took off. And I've realized that too about, I do so many things now. I'm kind of in that same position where I've got my hands in too many cookie jars and I'm good at them all. So I almost need to poop or get off pup. Oh man, that'd be awesome, man. Not gay music, right? Man, yeah, you got me thinking about Rush. I'm going to be doing Rush all day on my playlist. That was something too. When I was a kid, I loved my dad. I was lucky. My dad had Pink Floyd and Zeppelin records. I remember when I got to middle school, I'd say, Zeppelin. They like, huh? I'm like, Pink Floyd. They're like, what? I'm like, you don't know who Pink Floyd and Zeppelin are? Even when I got to high school, it was like that. So it made me realize how lucky I was. My dad was cool. But when I listened to Rush, I didn't really like him when I was a kid. I didn't. And then when I got older, I realized why, especially when I started listening to music. They were so good. They blended so well. You almost couldn't hear the instruments. All you could hear was one sound. I don't think we're ever going to hear that before or after. It was just like this. It was like a swarm of bees, but they were all synchronized perfectly. There was no hearing it was. I don't know. And so now when I listen to it, I just didn't know how to hear it when I was a kid. I was so used to hearing shitty music, and I didn't know good music. And that's one thing too. And I realized later on, like Rush, they got a following, but they didn't have a following like a Zeppelin or Pink Floyd. And it was because of that factor. Like they weren't going to play anything different. They played like they played, and it was so good, and they didn't care if anybody didn't like it or not. They were going to keep playing the same way, playing the same style of music for a long time, and they didn't really change a lot. They didn't need to. It was, um, yeah, true that. It's always a good day for us. Yeah, I'm always interested in new music. I had a buddy that was so eclectic. He hated anything that was on the radio. So I got to hear bands that, I never would have heard of. And thank God. And he would get so mad once the radio did find him. Like John Malcolmus, he was so mad when they found them. Bell and Sebastian, Pavement. Pavement, that's a great 90s band because they weren't a punk, they weren't a alternative. So they kind of, I guess they kind of were alternative, but they just weren't looked at. Pavement, man, that's a good group. Killer riffs on the guitar, great voice. But he's still this day, he's got thousands of records. I mean, I've got about 1,000 records, but he's got 10,000. And he sold a Monkeys one the other day. He said he sold it for like 140. I got him to try to sell some of my stuff. I'm like, you sell the stuff you have two of. He's like, yeah, that's probably true. I'm like, you have two Monkeys one, you don't need two of them. And so he sells them, then buys new ones. Because he's a hoarder and he's not gonna sell to make money. He don't care. He makes enough money. Well, thanks for joining, guys. I appreciate you. I was just gonna practice anyway. Figure I'd let people listen for a second, talk some pregame, see if there's any more sales that pop up. I find that I like Yard Sale Treasure Map, but I think everybody else has found it too. And it's linked to Craigslist too. So I still find that the best yard sales are the ones that aren't listed. You just come up on them. And so I just kind of roll with that a lot of times. Like right now, there's a bunch of estate sales, and those suck because they're ran by somebody that thinks they know the market. It's like that guy at the Jordans, like, well, I think they go for like 100 on eBay. I'm like, yeah, but you have to pay 10% to eBay, 3% to PayPal, and you still got to ship it out. So, no. I always love when people try to do that to me. I'm like, that's not even sold. That's you're saying what's listed. They haven't even got the money for that yet. They're probably gonna have to bring it down. That's why it hasn't sold. I'm so happy baseball's back. I mean, you wouldn't believe all my cards. Dude, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad, but man, every good card I have is gone. Somebody came in and bought the last three of my rookie Patrick Mahomes. They were printing plates, 101s. He went and bought them 299, 289, 289, pop, 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 just bought them. I'm like, whoa, $900 sales. Because I added like $20 shipping because I put insurance on or something. I usually put like $20, so he almost pays for the fees. And like I said, most time when I'm with sports cards, people want. Hey Joe, how's it going, man? When people want that card, they want that card. They don't care about the price. And if it's over $300, I put it in a box, of course, and I put insurance on it just because I don't want to freaking deal with it. I don't mind paying extra. Like I said, I charge them for it. But almost all my good cards are gone except for the Royals. I got some good Royals cards I haven't sold. But I have a bunch of good Cardinals I haven't put up, and they'll sell fast. And I mean, they're selling so good. I might have to pull my good ones out of my booths because they're going for more on eBay now. There for a while, I was selling some stuff better in my booths than on eBay. because eBay kind of waters down some things. Like I kept trying to tell people about the hype with that Zion and Jaw and everybody's buying the same one, Mosaic. It was just a perfect storm. Like, don't buy that stuff. If you do, sell it instantly, because whenever everybody buys it, there's a good product, there's something good in there. Whenever all these people get them, they're just gonna load up eBay with listings, and it'll drop the price. It'll just plummet, and you know, in one of those deals, you spend $200, $300 going through blaster boxes. Didn't even know. I heard some of those people, a few people talking about it, how they were looking for the $15,000 auto in blaster box. I'm like, they're not even in there, guys. Like, I wish they didn't. I thought I've told them, but same people that talk about how they've mastered the sports cards. I'm like, mastered it? You just started. I'm like, okay. But it always happens that way. I remember I learned that with like Mahomes back in the day when 2018 Select came out, his second year, and I bought a bunch of cheap stuff and to sell, and I thought they'd go for like $20 a piece, and they didn't, because it got so loaded down on eBay, because everybody did the same thing, because the product comes out, all these guys buy these breaks, and then they just throw them on, and then after a while, a lot of guys, they'll throw up a lot of 10 of them, and you can get them so cheap, you might as well just waited, let everybody break them, wait just for that little curve to go down, then boom, get them all cheap, and then let everybody else source them for you and pinpoint what you want. And that's what I started doing. And then like now I sell those Mahomes cards for $20 to $30. I was getting them for like $1 a piece or less back in a couple of years ago. And I still got a bunch that's just slowly selling, and it works great. But I mean, it's one of those things too, I could have bought Baker Mayfield at the same time, because he was actually supposed to be better. His cards were going better. And I mean, Mitchell Trubisky, and if I would have bought Mitchell Trubisky stuff, that would have been a waste. But at the time, everybody leaned to him more than Mahomes. And even last year, Baker Mayfield, he had a good rookie year. And so the next year, right before the season started, this time last year, I listed up all my Baker Mayfield stuff. And I had some good ones, and they went high right before the season started, because people were hoping he would just have a great season. He did terrible. He went backwards. And so I'm glad I sold him, because you probably can buy all those cards for super cheap right now, which isn't a bad idea. He's actually a good quarterback, so just has a terrible team. But if he gets some decent help around him and they have a good season, his cards can go from next to nothing to, and even like Mitchell Trubisky, you can buy those cheap now, and he might play somebody, or I don't know. But I don't like football. I sell football fast, and that's why with Mahomes, he's about the best sure bet you can find. But even with him, one injury, when you get an injury in baseball, it's almost always fixable. There's hardly anybody that quits because of an injury, and it's usually only a back, and that's the last one I remember was what's his face? He was a good power hitter. He was good. What was his name? He had a big contract, but anyway, it happens so rarely. But in football, it's just, and plus they're the guys that are so hitting heads and stuff, and they're the crazy guy, end up being crazy guys. If you have that proponent, what do you call it? Propensity to get the CTE in your family, and you play football, you're almost guaranteed to have some mental instability coming. It hits that rage stuff. Anyway, I just don't trust NFL, and the careers don't last that long. So, and that's why only quarterbacks are worth money, because even a great receiver, there's no Jerry Rices anymore. And he was going over the middle. It still baffles me. He'd go over the middle all the time. He had to, because Joe Montana's arm wasn't that good. But he hit him perfect, and he was always Jerry Rice never had to slow down. It was always full stride. Man, it was amazing. But yeah, anyway, Mahomes is still. I collect baseball. Here's one I got yesterday. I did a Royals break. You can get Royals breaks for next to nothing, you know. But they've got some decent players. And there's this kid named Bubba Starling. He was a number one pick. He was a number one pick a lot of years back. He's kind of a bust guy, but he's gotten better and better and better. And he's starting. He's playing this year, and he's on the team, and he's had the most power for the team this year in spring training and at summer. And this is a 12 of 15 autograph, and it's not. It is a sticker auto, so it's not as good, but 12 out of 15 rookie card auto, that's pretty killer, and it's a 10 auto. So I'm gonna send this in and grade it because this will be a personal collection kind of thing. Because right now I wouldn't be able to sell it, but he's the kind of guy that could hit 25, 30 home runs if you have his rookie card. And I got a bunch of other cards for $19, can't beat it. Actually, that may have been 15. It was under 20. Yeah, seriously. I mean, even with Mahomes freaking breaking his knee, coming back, and all that stuff, one Achilles busted, and you don't run the same anymore, and it is what it is. I mean, look at freaking what's his name, RG3. If anybody watched that season, he was the real deal. Anybody watching saw how good he was. He got rolled over by that nose guard 30 yards down the field, and it was almost like that Bo Jackson kind of deal, and he just never was the same again. I think a lot of times you lose that mojo if you've never been hurt before. It's like one of my buddies, he got a divorce, and he came up to me and he was just like, what, he was just blasted by it, because he wasn't expecting it. And I'm sure, I can only imagine. But what I realized was this is a guy that was second state all 4 years of wrestling, which is amazing, even as a freshman all the way through. And he lost to the same guy that ended up going to like Nebraska. So like he was awesome. All-state football quarterback, and all-state D-back. He basically he was the best drummer. He could play anything. I'm the best drummer I've seen live other than Carter Beauford. And so whenever he failed, he had never failed before, and he was looking at me like he didn't understand failure. And I'm like, I'm well versed on failure. I'm so used to it. And that made me realize that it was an advantage to fail a lot, because you know how to handle adversity. And that's one thing I love about music and learning music. It teaches you you got to fail over and over again to get good, and that's the only way all those guys did it. There's very few virtuosos, and if you are a virtuoso, you're probably messed up, and you're thinking only in that part of the brain where you're probably not thinking very good in the other parts of the brain where you need to. So it's not a good thing. Most people had to. I mean, they asked Yo-Yo Ma, like, how did you learn the Bach sonata? It's 2.5 hours long. How did you remember and learn? He goes, well, I started with the first bar, got it down, and went to the next one. I mean, even him, Yo-Yo Ma, it's like everybody thinks of him as being like the best cello ever. He's still like, I had to learn it and repeat it and learn it and repeat it and go fail, and then get better. And that's what I love about music. Teaches you that's what life's really about. It's how you handle the failure, because usually, you see how you could have done it better. You see why you should have done it different, went into it different, and better mindset, blah, 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 That goes back to mindset, I think, for everything. I don't know if anybody, probably not, but since I'm a big Chiefs fan, but everybody should go back and watch the inside the helmet mic'd up for Patrick Mahomes during the Super Bowl. It's crazy. You see why he wins and does so good in the biggest moments. He's playing like a kid. There's that, I don't know if you guys remember that one play where it was like 3rd and like 15. He went run on the side, and a guy came in and hit him hard. And kind of went low and got him pretty hard. And he kept him from getting the first down, if I remember right. It knocked the ball out. And the mic'd up, he goes, man, good hit, baby. Good hit, man. Awesome. And it was just like in that moment, and he kept you from maybe getting your Super Bowl, but he's still congratulating this guy about kicking his own ass. And it's just like he's in the game. He's the only one in the game. Everybody else is thinking about what's after the game, all the time to get to this part. He believes he's coming back. He has a different mindset. And that's like Jordan and those guys, they're just at a different. Sounds like a Rocky movie. Yeah. Rocky movies. What's so funny about the Rocky movie is Sylvester Stallone's own story is 1,000 times better than the Rocky story that he made all of his money on. Like his own story is awesome. And I don't know why no one's put that movie out. Like what he had to do to get Rocky sold and how long he held out and what he held out for. They didn't want to put him in that movie. Yeah, it's freaking, that's an amazing story. I mean, he sold his dog and then went and bought it back for a hefty price. He had to put the guy in the movie even. He had to make an appearance. The guy was smart, whoever he sold that dog to. He probably wasn't a very good salesman in a way, or he wouldn't have had to do that. But he stuck to his guns so long. It's just a great story. And, steroids or no steroids later on in life, whatever. I can't imagine like how long he must have been taking steroids over the day. I still like the Rocky movies. They're cheesy. And if you like fighting at all, it's pretty terrible. Pretty terrible. But I think it goes back to my point I was saying earlier about music. Music makes some movies, and that's one of those movies it's like borderline. You throw the music in it, you're like, hell yeah, But the burning heart, and like I was from a town. It's Marceline. We're the Marceline Tigers, and so we played Eye of the Tiger at everywhere. The Friday at school, we had boom boxes through the boom boxes. Date me, and cassette players with everybody's Eye of the Tiger blaring through the halls. And that song is awesome. It's still good. And we would play it on our the stadium when we were coming down. We'd have fire trucks, and we would be going hand in hand, two players at a time, all the way down, have an Eye of the Tiger. And I mean, the crowd, our town was like a Texas town when it came to football. It was all they had, and man, it was a blast. Especially when we had to face our rival, and it was actually, I think it's the longest rival football game, one of the longest in the United States, called the Bell Game. And before they made a stop, we used to they had a bell in their schoolyard, and we had one in our schoolyard. And the thing to do was to go trash their bell the whole week of before the game. So for years, it was always a big fight at the bell. You had to defend the bell, and there would always be bad problems. A lot of drinking. Hey, Armando, from the vault. Are you a coin channel? Because I see you have several of the same people I know. I like to buy coins. I enjoy coins. I don't dive into it super hard. I've got, like, I bought these one day on Locker Nuts, and they're nothing special, but they're 1964, and So the dime's got a little bit of silver in there, and the quarter's got a little silver. Got two of these, and then I have another one, but I'm keeping it. And it's Walking Liberty and Standing Liberty and Mercury dime and 64 steel or a steel, and then a Buffalo nickel. But I got all three of these for like $50 off. No, it was less than that on Locker Nuts. So I like to go on to. I just buy them whenever I see a good deal, and there's not other coin people in there. And but I don't know a lot about them. I just like to grab them. Queen, yeah. I used to never like Queen until I found out they had other songs that weren't on the radio. Like all those songs were really great. The ones on the radio I didn't really like. Um, We Are the Champions and stuff like that. I got heard it so many times. Thanks for joining, Armando. I just resell and I buy stuff and sell it on eBay, and I have Antique Mall and indoor flea market booths, and so I sell there, and I sell Mercari, and I'm gonna start selling Grailed and Depop soon just to try. Um, um, yeah, I'd like to see that. I haven't seen that yet. My buddy was from New Zealand, so he was a huge fan because everybody overseas loved Queen, and he introduced me to him, and I just get so annoyed. I'm like, because I was a Beatles Zeppelin guy. I'm like, I don't want, it wasn't my style. But then he let me listen to the stuff that wasn't on the radio. I'm like, when he got some real good guitar work, because Brian May is an amazing guitarist. He doesn't get much credit because Freddie Mercury takes a lot of the shine. But man, he taught some awesome freaking riffs. Probably, I mean, some of the most memorable riffs when you think about a collection of riffs through time, that if you just heard the guitar without Freddie Mercury's voice, you're like, I know that one. You know what I mean? So Brian May is probably top 10 guitarists for me when it comes to like riffs that are catchy. It depends on what kind of guitarist you're talking about, a technical classical one or a guy that plays like super solos. But when it comes to like cool riffs that people remember, Brian May's got to be top 10. I'm in Springfield, Missouri. I play bluegrass on the mandolin, so I call myself the bluegrass picker. But I like to play guitar and play a bunch of. I played a bunch of stuff earlier. Play a lot of Zeppelin, Dave Mathews. I'm gonna learn some more Pink Floyd, but a lot of the Pink Floyd stuff is the recognizable stuff is solos, and it's crazy technical solos. So many bends. David Gilmour was the master of the bend. Like when you study him, it'll be like a half bend, full bend, and then the two bend. And it's like, dude. And so now I know how he's getting that weird noises out of everything. It's cool to learn. So I can. That's why I love learning people's new style, their style, because then you can morph it into yourself, and you realize that's what everybody's doing. Like if you study the '70s and 60s and 70s music, they're all the chords that the Beatles used, everything. And they very rarely ever use any of those Beatle chords now or in the 80s and 90s. Everybody just copied them because that's what they're hearing. That's what they loved. And so you almost can't help it. And like Peter Frampton, Baby, I Love Your Way. He was playing that one day. I was trying to learn how to play it because I was like, it kind of sounds all right. And he was showing it, and he's walking it down. And I'm like, that's Beatles Blackbird. He stole that. He goes, because that's the walk down from Beatles Blackbird. Those are the chords, but he's playing it and strumming everything instead of just picking it with fingers. And in the middle of him playing, he goes, yeah, he goes, I think I was listening to Beatles Blackbird a little too much at the time. And so he had even admitted that he knew. And I was like, no shit. So confirmation, because Blackbird, those are chords that no one really ever plays. And that's why Dave Matthews sounds so different. Those are chords no one plays. No one plays those at all. That's why it has that deep, weird sound. And but it fits his voice. That's what's amazing when you start studying music. You're like, oh, okay, gotcha, and and why it was hard for Dave to go to electric and things like that, because it doesn't really fit him. But the band wanted to hear electric and stuff, and so after a while, they've learned that let Tim do it, and he can still play his, and that works. Dave playing, you can tell Dave doesn't want to play the electric. It's just not. And I'm kind of the same way. I like the electric because you can get some noise out of it that's different, and it's easy to play. But I like the acoustic better for some reason. The way it vibrates off my body or something, you almost feel like you're part of it. But like, I don't know. I do like parts of the electric. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, right on. Miami, they advertise your gambling place down there all the time up here. Today's Sound of Queen with Adam Lambert is really good. Adam Lambert? I don't even know who that is. I hope that's sarcasm. I don't know. Chicken Bone Beach. That's weird. Well, I better sign off. Thanks for joining Armando for the first time. Thanks for Kent and Sam and everybody that came in for a minute and gave me a few watch hours. Cora, easy, babe. My puppy. I'm trying to get my other dog to play with her. Hey, Cora, he's not going to play right now. Easy. Sorry. It's a good time to get off. But I appreciate you all. Grind on. Get some of these yard sales. Grind on.